Hi everyone, so today I want to show you this card, which I'm calling a 6x6, well, it is called a 6x6 book jacket card. And I think I should put on the screen who it was who I saw, because I can't remember off the top of my head now as I'm filming this. But she'd done a version of this and I really liked it. So, yes, I thought I'd have a go. So I've done a little twist on it. It's not exactly the same as the one that I saw. I've kept the front nice and simple. Just put a simple die cut, few little peel off stars on it, and then you open it up. This bit kind of pops open and you've got this. Now this is the way that she had the person who did it, she'd done it this way, like this. But I've added this extra bit here, so you've actually got a top folding card there, so you can actually write your message in it. So it stands up nicely. This does poke out a little bit because I've used quite a thick card. You could use a thinner one, it wouldn't be quite so bad. And then that means as long as that goes down like that, the whole thing fits in an envelope for a 6x6 card. So the whole thing measures 6x6. If you don't put this bit in like that and it sticks out, then you're going to end up with a 7x6. So that's why I advise you put it in. I also would advise that you don't use very thick card. I've used quite a lot of thick layers here. And so it means that when you fold it all up, that's quite a wodge. But if you use thinner card bases, I would say probably for your base card, nothing thicker than about a 200. And then your mats, try and keep them as thin as you can. Your patterns, again, try and keep them as thin as you can. And then you should be fine. It shouldn't be too bad. I've also got laid die cuts as well. I've got all sorts on this one. So this is all singing or dancing. So that's why it's quite so bulky. This die here is from In Love Art Shop. So if you use my code ICEDImages, all in one word, that will get you 20% off. These dies here, it's a set of 6, and you lay them up however you want to lay them up. And they were from Coco Rosa Studio. So if you use my code ICE20, that will get you 20% off at Coco Rosa Studio. So yeah, so that's it. So let's get into it. Right, so for this card, you're going to need a base piece of card that is 6x12. If you've got a 6x6 card blank, you can go ahead and use that. Because that will already be pre-scored at 6 inches, which is what you want to do if you're using a 6x12. Okay, you also need a 6x8, and along the 8-inch edge, you can score 1 inches, 2 inches, 3 inches, and 4 inches. So you can take your 6x12 and you're just going to fold that in the middle. So basically, you're making a 6x6 card blank. Do make sure that it is 6x6, so some manufacturers make them a little bit smaller than 6x6. And then what we're going to do is on this one here, these are all going to be mounting folds. Okay, so you should end up with that. Now what you want to do is just on this edge, I would just trim a very tiny amount off. And I do mean a very tiny amount. It's just that then if you do that, it just means it's going to make it a little bit easier when you come to putting it together. So as you can see, literally taking like a slither off, not even an 1/8, probably a 1/16 of an inch. So you should end up with your folded bits on the left and your plain bit on the right. And then on this piece here, you want a piece of mat that is 3 3/4 by 5 3/4, and a piece of pattern that's 3 1/2 by 5 1/2. I'm going to go ahead and stick those two down and stick that whole lot onto the front there. Okay, so you should end up with that. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put this onto here first before we do any more. So what we want to do is turn this over and we're going to put a bit of glue or tape just on this section here, and then it will fold round and stick down. And I'm actually going to stick it so it's kind of flat because I want it to stick the same way it's going to be when it goes in, you know, when the card is folded flat in the envelope. So I've just added a little bit of glue on there, and then what's going to happen is when it's folded flat in the envelope, you're going to be able to see this bit's going to be folded down, and so this piece here is going to be folded over and then like that. So you want to fold it so that it's like that, so you've got two pieces, so you're literally folding that sticky bit over. If you want to, you can fold it so that it's like that, which is easier to fold, so that you're literally folding it along that line, and then just pop it back again. because this is the way it's going to be in the card. Okay, so this is why I'm sticking it this way, but if you find it easier to stick it the other way, then you can. Just make sure that it's, like I said, it folds fine like that, because that's how it's going to be in the card. So then we want to put a piece on here. You don't have to if you don't want to, but if you do, then you're going to need a piece of mat that is 3/4 by 5 3/4, and a piece of pattern that is 1/2 inch by 5 1/2. So I'm going to go ahead now and stick these down. Right, so once you've stuck that bit down, you'll end up with a piece that looks like that. And then we're going to go ahead and stick the pattern piece that goes in the middle. So you need a mat piece that is 4 3/4 by 5 3/4, and a pattern piece on top that's 4 1/2 by 5 1/2. And that is going to go here. So make sure you leave a space here. If you want to stick that on first, you can, but I find it easier because you've got, you know, full access. Just make sure that whatever border you've got top and bottom, that's what you're going to have on the right. You can kind of nudge it over a little bit, and if you want, you can bring this in and just double check, and I can see from the angle that I'm sat at, you won't be able to see it, but I can see here that that gap is fine. So then we're going to go ahead and just stick this down onto here. Just, as I said, make sure it marries up with that middle fold line. And then once you've stuck that down, you're going to take this one, put some red tape or glue onto this side, and then we're going to stick that whole thing down. So what you want to make sure, because obviously this is going to fold like that, you want to make sure that this edge here lines up with that cut edge there. So this is why I use wet glue, because I find it just gives me that little bit longer, just to make sure it definitely is in the right place. So we're going to take this and just line this up here like that. Make sure it's nice and straight, and then just stick it into position. Right, so once you've done that, you should end up with that, and that should be nicely stuck into place. So this is the beginning. So what happens is that folds down, this folds over. Okay, so before we do any more, I'm just going to turn this over. Now this front section here, you don't have to put anything on it, but I'm going to put something on it anyway. So I've got a mat piece that is 5 3/4 by 5 3/4, and a pattern piece that's 5 1/2 by 5 1/2. And that's just going to go on the front, and then I'm just literally going to stick a nice greeting on the front, and that is it. You're going to keep the front really simple, because the main event is what's inside. You don't really need the front to be done, to be fair. But I just think I'm going to do that just to make it a bit more polished. Okay, so I'm going to stick the greeting on afterwards, because I'm probably going to use silicone gel and I don't want it moving around. So next what we want to do is deal with this section here. So you are going to need, now there's different ways you can do this. You can either just do a mat and then a pattern piece, or a mat and then just a white piece if you want to write here. I decided that I would like to do a piece there that you can write in. But what I'm going to do is I've got my mat, and then I've got a piece that is 5 1/2, I think I did it, yeah, 5 1/2 by 11. Scored it in half at 5 1/2 to make a 5 1/2 by 5 1/2 card blank. I'm going to turn it round so it's top folding, and it's going to go on top of that 5 3/4 by 5 3/4 mat piece. I've then taken a 5 1/4 by 5 1/4 pattern piece, and that is going to go on top like that. And then I've got a little thing to put on, and I'll probably put a little greeting or something else on there. I'm not quite sure yet. But then that means you can open this up and you've still got space to write, but when it's displayed, you haven't got your message open for the world to see. So that's why I quite like doing it that way. So I'm going to go ahead now and stick my mat onto here, stick the card blank onto the mat, and the pattern onto the front of the card blank. Right, so you should end up with your card looking like that. So that's obviously where you can write. You can stamp your greeting in there. So we just need to put something on the front. So I've got these dies here, which it was a set of 6, and you can just kind of layer them up to make different scenes. So I thought I might have these on here at a jaunty angle like that. And then on this side here, I've got an In Love Art Shop die, which I used at Christmas time, which is Merry Christmas. So I've die cut it with some tape on the back. I'm just going to peel that off, and that's going to go on there like that. So I'm just going to do that now. Okay, so there you have that bit, and obviously that lifts up and you've got your greeting underneath. And then we just got to do the front cover. So now mine's getting quite chunky. The only reason it's chunky is because I've used too thick a card. So what I would advise is you definitely use thinner bases. You could do away with your mat altogether, but the inside piece that I used here, this was way thicker than what I was hoping to use, expecting to use, and what I should have used. But anyway, never mind. It is what it is. Right, so then on the front, I've got this die here. I've no idea where this came from. This is one I've had in my stash for quite a while. I'm just going to stick that on the front. I was thinking about paper piecing, but I really can't be bothered. So I'm just going to stick that straight on the front like that. Because as I said, the front is not the main event. The front is really just the, you know, an extra nicety. So I'm going to go ahead now, peel all my bits off and stick this down. Right, so I went ahead and stuck that on the front and just add some little peel off stars just to kind of add a bit of sparkle on the front. It's quite plain, but that's fine because then when you open it up, you have this lovely like book jacket, and obviously this opens up and you've got your space for your message. So if you wanted to, one thing I was going to do an aperture on here. But obviously you have to remember that you haven't got that full width because you've got this in the way. So you've only really got from there to the end. So you haven't got very much space there. That actually measures 3 inches. So if your aperture is no wider than 3 inches, well, it'd have to be less than that again because you've got mat and layers. So that's, you know, one thing to think about. The other thing as well you could do is maybe extend this by 1 inch, because when you fold this down and inwards, the gap between that edge and the centre is 1 inch. So if you wanted to, I'd probably go 7/8 to be fair, just to make sure it definitely doesn't, you know, butt up against the middle there. But you could go a little bit more. It just means that when it's open, you haven't got such a wide gap there, because that's 2 inches, that gap. You'd only have like just under 1 inch showing. So that's the other option. But yeah, it's quite nice. It's quite, you know, it's interesting. I quite like it as a card. If you didn't want to have this top fold, you could just have a flat panel like that. Just have a flat panel on there. So it's really up to you what you want to do with it. But there's lots of different, you know, scope you can do. I do have another variation for this card. So yeah, make sure to check that out. Also, go and check out In Love Art Shop. That's what this die was from. And use my code ICEDImages, all in one word, which will get you 20% off. Also go and check out Coca Rosa Studio, which is where these dies were from, and use my code ICED20, and that will get you 20% off on Coca Rosa. Okie doke. But yeah, so I hope you enjoyed today. Please like and subscribe, hit the notification bell so you never miss a video, leave a comment down below, and we'll see you next time. Bye.